I'm talking today with Roseanna Croft. Roseanna is a spiritual and Jungian life coach, a meditation master, a motivational speaker, jewelry designer, and successful businesswoman. She is also a triple negative breast cancer survivor. She hosts her own podcast, The Mandala Effect, and is currently writing her first book. Roseanna is dedicated to empowering women from all walks of life and to help them create their best future selves in the here and the now. My name's Phil Webster. After traveling the world for 20 years, I returned to my native England and embarked on an acting career. Things were going pretty good. But losing my mum in 2021, coupled with an unexplained event, sent my life on a completely different path, forever. I trained with indigenous shamans, meditation teachers, mediums, and thought leaders, and I wrote a book called Letting Glow. Join me on a quest to demystify the mystical with some of the world's leading experts on the esoteric, consciousness, and the journey to letting glow. So thanks, Roseanna, for joining me. I really appreciate your time. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're from the same neck of the woods. You're in the Midlands in the UK, where I grew up. So if you wouldn't mind telling me, what's a spiritual life coach?
What is a spiritual life coach? Well, uh, what isn't a spiritual life coach? I help people get in touch with themselves, really, in like the kind of most simple form, because I believe that so many people are living life so disconnected from who they truly are. They're so unhappy, unfulfilled, stressed, burnt out, and they wonder why. And, the next shiny thing that they want to buy isn't going to fix it. The diet isn't necessarily going to fix it. So what's left? And I believe that most people don't have that spiritual connection to, and not necessarily spiritual to something higher, to a god or whatever, but to that unseen part of themselves. So a spiritual life coach, from my perspective, helps people come back to that so that they can live a life that they actually want to live and enjoy living.
I was looking at your website and YouTube videos. So do you predominantly have female clients, or do you speak to men as well?
Predominantly female clients, yeah. I think that's just what my energy
Yeah.
attracts. But yeah, predominantly female.
Okay. And how long have you been doing it for now?
About 3 years now. Yeah, had a bit of a life change,
Yeah, yeah,
bit of a
absolutely.
career change a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So just looking at something that intrigues me, and I tentatively stepped into reading about Carl Jung. I'm not an expert on him by any means, but you implement Carl Jung teachings into your work with your clients. How do you do
How? Well, most people know about limiting beliefs, and most people know that there is something unseen holding them back. But there's only so much work that we can do on the limiting beliefs that we have, maybe around money or relationships, before we need to go even deeper and understand the shadow. So the parts of ourselves that we have projected on, that we have rejected and projected out into the world. And working and shadow work's kind of predominantly how I work with Jung's
that?
theories, like helping people integrate the parts of themselves that they have pushed away, because this is where everybody's seeking wholeness in some form. And how can we be whole when we're projecting parts of ourselves onto other people, whether that's the parts that we don't like maybe anger, or we've been programmed to believe that if we speak our mind, then we're going to be seen as arrogant. So we then reject these parts of ourselves that could actually help us live a really whole and fulfilled life. So I help people integrate the shadow, doing shadow work and understanding the ego. So the mechanism of your psyche that is trying to protect you and keep you safe at all
Yeah.
times. So it's working with the whole psyche and not just the kind of surface level limiting beliefs. And it gets so fascinating the deeper you go into it. So we kind of start with shadow work, understanding what the ego is, understanding how your ego has built your personality and your identity, and then the kind of archetypes that show up in your life. And we start to go deeper as we move through the shadow and you integrate the shadow, and then we work with archetypes and symbols and see how the subconscious mind is communicating with you. It gets so fascinating the kind of deeper you go.
Mm.
And also working with the anima and the animus, so integrating the inner masculine and the inner
Okay.
feminine, again, to become whole.
I've not heard that term before. Yeah, that's interesting that when you talk about the subconscious mind, I lean very much towards the spiritual arena. I know that he was kind of a big proponent of spirit guides, right? Didn't he have one
Mm-hmm.
specifically called Philemon? And he was quite open about that he believed that he was talking to an entity that wasn't himself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you lie with that? What are your beliefs around that?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's 100%
Mm.
possible because there are so many different energies and different um, aspects of consciousness that we're not aware of with
Mm.
our own five senses. So I think that the more we become in tune with the unseen, with our own unseen, and I know Jung was very into the esoteric, and I mean, yeah, it gets, like I say, really fascinating the deeper you go into it. But I think that it's very possible that he had spirit guides. I mean, I think we all do, but we don't all have the
Mm.
capability at the moment to tap into what they're trying to communicate to us.
Have you ever, and I don't want you to lose any customers through this, but have you ever tried to connect with your own spirit guides? Has that been something that you've been interested in?
It is, and it's something that I play around with in different forms. So I do I mean, I'm a meditation teacher as
Yeah.
well, so I help people, connect to the higher self, to something else, outside of themselves potentially. I know some of my clients have like insane visions that they don't understand how to, well, that, I mean, some of them are really insane, like not insane, but
Yeah.
like, wow, mind
Yeah.
blowing. So yes, I have, without much luck at the
Okay.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel meditation's really been the game changer for me.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of not keeping up with it. I'll try to at least just do 5 minutes when I wake up in the morning, and I'll
Mhm.
typically just go use a guided meditation. I find it very easy to go on a journey with somebody, and then I've been leading meditations myself. One interesting thing, just kind of bringing it back to spirit guides that I was in a guided meditation, like the somebody was leading in a circle, and I've worked with this person a lot. Well, she's my teacher essentially.
Mm.
And one interesting thing that happened was that something came up talking about visions, and I was thinking, okay, well, what are they doing there? Some people showed up specifically, and I was thinking, well, that's odd. They were just out of the blue, but I was still conscious. I was still there. I was still following the meditation. And a couple of minutes later, she brought these people in, and I was like, well, that's really odd. I remember consciously thinking, like, what are they doing here? And then she talked about them
Yeah.
after the fact, which I just found really fascinating because we were all in this group meditation, and I truly believe that we were so tuned in that whatever these things were, that they were there,
Mhm.
because she confirmed it a couple of minutes later. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going off track a little bit.
But that's fascinating to me because we are there is the collective unconscious. We
Mm.
are all connected in that way. So the fact, and we know that we're living in a quantum
Mm.
universe. So everything is kind of there, ready for us to just tap
Yeah,
into.
absolutely.
Um, and how it works, I've got no idea. And I've had similar experiences, not with visions or
Mm.
people or guides, but through some work I do with like Kundalini and in a group. So like kind of everybody having a similar experience, but not in the same, not the same experience, but from their own
Yeah,
perspective. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Like,
it all ties
yeah.
in at the end, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I love this. I'll talk about anything.
So yeah, just to go to your own journey a little bit, and I approach this tentatively. You've been through a lot. You've been in cancer, and you've changed your life path completely. Would you mind just talking about that journey a bit?
Yeah, of course. So 3 years ago, I thought I was working towards like this incredible life. I was living the high life in London. I had a fine jewelry
Mm.
company. I was I mean, I'd been a designer for 10 years. I was doing it myself. I had private clients
Yeah.
worldwide. I was whining and dining in the fanciest places, and I thought I had it
Mm.
all. And I knew that something in my life wasn't right. I was having anxiety attacks. I was extremely unhappy. I decided to leave the relationship that I was
Yeah.
in. I made some big changes, started to connect to myself.
Yeah.
I started to listen to myself in meditation and take my spiritual practice a level deeper. And so on one level, things in my life were a bit chaotic, but on the superficial level, it looked like everything was working
Yeah.
out. And then I moved into my dream apartment in
Mm.
Fulham, and thought I'd hit the
Yeah.
jackpot.
Yeah.
And 6 days later, I was diagnosed with a rare form of breast
Okay.
cancer. So at the time, the whole experience was extremely
Mm.
difficult, extremely traumatic, and I'm dealing with parts of it
Yeah.
today. But in hindsight, it was one of the most divine things that ever happened to
Mm.
me.
Mm.
I even looking at the timing of everything, it was perfect. If somebody was going to write a cancer journey that had a miraculous
Yeah.
ending, it would go something like my
Yeah.
own. Just before I was diagnosed, I started work, and I'd been through the tests because I'd felt a pain in my
Mm.
breast,
Mm.
and I knew something wasn't right, but I just thought it was something really
Yeah.
nothing. So I had it checked. Not a cat's chance in hell did I think I had cancer. It never even crossed my mind consciously.
Mm.
And so I was just going about my life, creating my life as I would. I'd even started dating and stuff and whatever. And I'd started looking into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza because I was like, okay, how can I make more money?
Yeah.
How can I get to the next
Mm.
level?
Mm.
So I started reading one of his books, Becoming Supernatural. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. All these people healing
Mm.
themselves from all of these life-threatening illnesses. And then just 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. So you want to be, it's like, no, I haven't had communication with spirit guides, but something's been supporting
Yeah.
me to put that work in my hands. It's divine that I'd started looking into this work, and I already knew a little bit about the law of attraction, and kind of had this incredible, like I was building a really strong meditation practice. But I knew that if I was going to heal in the way that I wanted to, I needed to understand what was wrong in my energetic system, where I was out of alignment and where I needed to come back into alignment, and get in touch with that superpower that all humans
Mm.
have. But we're not told that we have that superpower. We're not told that we can heal ourselves. We're made to believe that we're really powerless and that life just happens to us. But I knew that whatever this was, life was happening for me. So I was very fortunate because I had a bit of a personal development background with the likes of Tony Robbins and
Mm.
whatever. So I knew that I flipped into warrior mode.
Mm.
I started doing Dr. Joe's meditations every single
Mm.
day
Mm. Mm.
religiously, and started connecting to myself because I knew that I wouldn't be able to just go through. I didn't want chemo.
Mm. Mm.
My family wanted me to have
Yeah.
chemo, so we compromised and I had
Okay.
chemo.
Mm. Mm.
And then, but alongside it, I was doing a lot of holistic work as well, Reiki, meditation, and listening to my
Mm.
intuition. I basically very quickly started to see results in the tumor
Mm. Mm.
shrinking, and I decided I didn't want chemotherapy anymore because I was having suicidal
Okay.
thoughts. I was like at a really, really low
Mm.
place. I'd lost all of my hair. My identity had completely changed. My business was floundering because it's very hard to keep a business running while you're going through chemotherapy. And so I then had to ask myself the question, right, I don't want chemotherapy anymore. Do I trust myself enough to stop early?
Mm.
And so this brought up all of these questions around, am I okay with dying if I make the wrong decision?
Yeah.
What am I okay with what comes after? But it turns out, and this is the very short version of the story, but it turns out I made the right decision. And then after I had, because I had to have surgery as well because of a genetic mutation, which caused the cancer, I made the right decision. I was given the all clear, totally shocked the doctors. They were kind of gobsmacked with the result because I hadn't been given great stats and I shrunk the tumor completely.
Wow.
So it was all, and what I put it down to is knowing
Yeah.
myself, trusting in something higher than the ego that, just wants to keep, just this kind of superficial level that we live as humans, trusting in my greater power and the greater power that was there supporting me. So it was the most divine thing that ever happened to me, as well as one of the most painful
Yeah.
things.
Wow. I find that really fascinating on so many levels. A friend of mine has recently been diagnosed as well, and she's decided not to have any traditional treatment, and she's going to go the whole holistic route, 100%.
Amazing.
And it's such a sensitive area. I mean, I don't know what my stance on that is, or what to say to her or anything like that. But I might actually have her on to talk about it. Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So when I've been faced with losing somebody else, so when we're faced with mortality, and I can't imagine how it must feel to be really confronted with your own. I feel like it's just such an understatement to say, but it must just change everything. It must have changed your entire internal compass.
Yeah, it did change my internal compass massively. The whole thing did, because it just really challenged how I wanted to live life. So I decided I didn't want to live life from fear
Mm,
anymore,
mm.
and that actually I could really trust myself. In saying that, fear does creep back in. We are human at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and we're built to survive. So, but it's an amazing reminder for myself that, Rosanna, you trusted yourself with
Mm.
death. You trusted yourself with this decision, so you can trust yourself with this
Like
decision,
everything else. Yeah. Yeah.
with everything
Mm,
else.
mm,
And it's just, honestly, it's helped me. It's helped me become the woman that I am
mm,
today,
mm,
because I know that I won't settle for anything less than what I want and what's going to make me happy and what's going to give me the most fulfilled
mm.
life. And I know that, I guess it's helped me understand the power of them. It's helped me understand a lot.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So just to sort of go back to talking about the work that you do with your clients, I've been looking at some of your YouTube videos, and you've mentioned it here as well. But remembering who we are at a core level, about dropping conditioned constructs that we've inherited from other people, our past. What would you say are the first steps that somebody could take in identifying those constructs and then going forward from there?
I would say ask yourself, what is something you're working on at the
Hmm.
moment? What is something you're working towards at the moment? And write it down. And why do you want it? And really question why you want
Mm,
it. And then ask yourself, well, what's holding me back from having it? Why don't I have it already? And from that, you'll start to see maybe a pattern in the dialogue of why you don't have it. And if you notice fear coming up in that, or anything maybe a little bit negative, then just digging into that a little bit more and asking, well, where has this come from? Now, the one thing is the ego is quite tricky, and it'll give you a lot of different answers as to why you don't have it, and it will make you feel like you probably are in the
mm,
wrong. But if you keep on digging and just keep on asking why, and keep on asking, why do I want this? And why don't I have it? And things will start to show up.
mm.
And patterns in your life. Is there a particular pattern that keeps showing up in money? Is there a particular pattern that keeps on showing up in
Yeah.
relationships? Are there particular people that trigger you? This will give you an inkling into what's lying in your shadow. If you've got, if there is, if maybe really confident people trigger you and you think that they appear as arrogant, then why? Is there, and what's the story around that? So asking yourself what the stories are that you're telling yourself about people, and experiences. So I think it's a lot, but asking yourself why and having that inner dialogue with yourself. I journal. I find it really, really useful. Obviously, working with somebody who's trained to help you, really, really useful. But also meditation, something that is totally free to everybody. Sit there, observe your breath for 10 minutes a day, build it up slightly. The shifts that you will have are profound, and you don't even really need to do very much, because things will start to fall away in your life. Your job is to let them. Your job is to allow the change that needs to happen.
Yeah, that's it, I think, isn't it? And then just doing what you love doing and what excites you, and then being authentic and honest with that. And of course, I'm not saying across the board that everybody can just drop everything and give it 100%, but just concentrating on that thing that really that you'd really love to do, even if you can only give it half an hour
Yeah,
a day. I feel like working towards it.
yeah.
One thing that I talk about a lot is demystifying the mystical. And what I mean by that is just I feel that this whole thing is supernatural. We're just used to
Yeah.
it. And I feel what we're talking about here, I feel that we've got a similar outlook on those things.
Yeah.
Do you edge your clients towards a more spiritual, mystical way of looking at things, or he's diplomatic around what their beliefs are, and sort of tactful around that?
I think I try to be
Yeah,
tactful,
or respectful
but
of people's beliefs, of course.
or respectful of people's
Yeah,
beliefs. Like you say, we're in this every day. This is my life. I live, sleep, breathe this
yeah,
stuff. And so I actually do often forget that most people
yeah,
don't. And kind of bridging that gap can often be quite difficult, like quite a challenge.
mm,
But I think that everybody's intrigued by the unseen, by the
yeah,
mystical, because they know on some level that it's the truth, and that there is a truth in it, and that there is something else, a bigger force at play
mm,
here. So I think that everybody takes what they need to take from a conversation, from a coaching session, from a YouTube
mm,
video, and whether it's, I don't know, and different messages appear to different people at different times in their life, depending on what they need to hear.
mm.
So I think maybe I'm just trying to encourage myself to not hold back on the spiritual and the mystical, but yeah, I think it can sometimes be quite tricky, but I try to be respectful,
Yeah.
as respectful as I can, whilst standing in my own truth.
You're writing a book, right?
I am writing a book,
How's it
yeah.
going?
Yeah, it's good. It's
Oh
finished.
wow, okay, congratulations.
Thank you. It is finished. It is in editing
Yeah,
stages. So I it's funny, I started writing it as I finished
okay,
cancer, like as I completed cancer, as I came out of my
mm,
journey. And at the beginning it was really cathartic. It was all I dedicated my time
yeah,
to every
yeah,
day. That was what I was doing. Everything else could fall
mm,
away. I let everything else fall
mm,
away as I was stepping into a new arena in my career and writing this book. And it's really interesting because it's got more and more powerful as the kind of book has
I bet.
progressed. But I'm now in the editing phase stage, and then we'll be really, really brave and seek out somebody to help me publish
Oh,
it.
that'll get snapped up in
Um,
a minute, 100%. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure, I'm certain of that.
I'm pleased to hear you
Oh,
think
yeah,
so, because
sure, yeah.
my ego is terrified.
No, it's that sounds amazing. And so you essentially documented your journey in real time, I guess. I'm looking forward to reading it. Definitely. All right, well,
Thank
thanks for your
you.
time. Thanks again for joining me, and hopefully we'll talk again at some point.
Amazing. Thanks so much for
All
having
right,
me.
take care.